Hey, what's going on everyone? Today we have a B patch update for patch 15.7b in TFT, so we're going to go over all the best comps and what's changed since the B patch because they completely nerfed Mighty Mech. I wouldn't play it right now. We can check the data on teamfight.lol, going over to traits, we could type in Mech, and yeah, 7 Mighty Mech, 4.4 in the recent patch, but in the previous one, it was at 3.8, so it went down quite a bit. I wouldn't say it's completely unplayable, but definitely it's not your first choice, you know? It's kind of like a safety school or safety job. I guess that second example isn't that quite relevant anymore, but okay, we have the S tier comps, which are going to be Juggernauts, Fast 9, and Bastion Fast 9. Fast 9 is just really good right now because it was the main comp people went if they couldn't go for Mech, so that definitely is back. Katarina is still very good in the top of the A tier. Ashe, very nice, and then Malzahar, going to be great as well, especially with a Noxious Trap power up. And then next we have is Bastion, Xayah, Reroll, and Veteran Mentor Janna. So not as many comps in the S and A tier this time, and I'd say like the S tier, it's not like a super S tier, it's more of like a S minus. But we're going to cover how to play each and every one of these comps. The Crystal Gambit Ashe, this is kind of like a new way to play Crystal Gambit where you just run 5 with the Ashe with an interesting build with an interesting power-up. But let's go on into how to play each and every one of these comps. So Juggernaut Fast 9 and Bastion Fast 9, there's a bit of overlap between these two because obviously they both have Fast 9 in their name, but they revolve around 2 different carries. So Lee Sin, absolutely bonkers right now. Probably one of the best legendaries to use as a carry, him and Seraphine, which we'll cover in just a bit. But in the Juggernaut version, you want to play all the Juggernauts. Braum is really good because he's a legendary and with Luchador, and then Twisted Fate in the backline and Xayah as support if you have extra items, and then Set as your main tank. So what you want to do with this comp is use Naafiri as an item holder for your Lee Sin. Ideally your perfect win streak, but if not, just saving health is good enough. Get an Econ augment or get one of the Oro farming or Golden Quest augments. Reach level 9, play as many legendaries as you can with the 6 Juggernauts to kind of fill in random space. So the reason why this works is because the 6 Jugs buff up Lee Sin so much. He's going to be very tanky and also dealing a bunch of damage. Twisted Fate ramps up in the backline with the Rage Blade with your 6 tanks in the front, 7 if you include Braum. And then Xayah's just there to support your whole team. So how do we get a lot of money? You either get a really good Econ augment, you get Crystal Gambit, or you get a portal that gives you a ton of money anyways. In the case of the portal, obviously everyone else also gets money, but if they don't play Fast 9, you're going to be at a slight advantage, but of course they might contest you. I would say it's not too bad to be contested as Fast 9 because like 2 people can go for legendaries because oftentimes you just need the 1 star to stabilize at the early parts, and then later on one of you gets knocked out and then the other player can get the 2 star. But also when you do a Fast 9, you have a couple different options. You also don't have to play every legendary at the same time. Like Lee Sin's just the most important one. You could use a random Rage Blade holder in the backline instead of Twisted Fate. But obviously Twisted Fate is better. And if you don't get the top comp, you could always go for the bottom comp. This one has Seraphine and Braum as 2 of the main carries because this one's based around Bastion. Braum is really good because he's the Bastion legendary. Seraphine's really good because she could use any item, and also Mage on Seraphine is absolutely bonkers. But both of them can use Twisted Fate because Twisted Fate is just going to be a great Rage Blade holder whenever you have a lot of tanks up front, so that's kind of why you play it. But for the fruits, Twisted Fate with Noxious Trap is really good. This way you don't need to build any of the anti-heal, any of the armor pen or magic pen items, so you save yourself essentially 2 to 3 items, which means you could itemize a different carry. And then for Lee Sin, Unflinching is really good, and you could also go for Warming Up if you get that instead. Honestly, a bunch of the other ones work on him pretty well too, so feel free to use your fruits in the early game a little more aggressively. You might want an Econ fruit, one that gives you a little bit of gold. That way it helps you get to level 9 a little bit easier. Going down into the fruits for the Bastion comp, Twisted Fate, same thing with Noxious Traps, it just saves you so many items. And then Seraphine, Mage, really good because she just double casts and kills a lot of stuff. It's just by far the best one on her. I would fish hard for Mage and Noxious Traps, so in this version you might want to save it. So in this version you might want to save your rerolls a little bit, but in the top version you just need the Noxious Trap, and then Lee Sin is decently flexible. But yeah, Fast 9, very good if you get a spot for it. If you don't, have no fear. There's some reroll comps you could play. Katarina reroll, very nice stuff. Really good with artifacts and radiant items. Main tank Rakan, secondary carry Yuumi. As long as you could get a scaling power up on Katarina, you should be doing pretty well. This comp does lose out in like the super late game, don't get me wrong. But if you have any half-decent artifact item, but if you hit Katarina with relative ease, you can easily get top 4s. If you had an artifact item that's relevant, top 3s. If you have a radiant items, maybe even top 2s. I mean, you can even win too with Katarina. If other people can't reach their late game cap, you essentially overpower them. And that's kind of one of the advantages of reroll comp. So just make sure you get Katarina 3 relatively early, play it with radiance or artifact items, anything that buffs up one particular unit, because that's going to be the best way to play her, because you don't really care about the rest of the team comp. It's really just Katarina. Like, not even Rakan you care about that much. I mean, obviously you care because you roll for him 3-star, but really you just have one unit in this whole team comp. But yeah, stacking power up for Katarina, tons to choose from. Just make sure you use it on her early, because there's a higher chance to get it on her if you use it early. For example, Max Arcana and over 9,000 only show up in stage 2. Not done yet doesn't show up after stage 3, and Waits is also a stage 2. After that, Rakan Unstoppable, mandatory, so it is a little tricky to kind of get every single power-up in this comp, so you do need Katarina's early, see if you even get a good power-up on her, because if you don't, you have to use your rerolls, and if you don't get that, you could be screwed later on, and you just don't have that much power for the comp. Maybe you bleed out for like a 5th or a 6th if you get a bad power-up. Not the end of the world, because, I mean, ideally you just hit, but you could always pivot off into something else if you don't get it worst case scenario. But Rakan Unstoppable is pretty non-negotiable, just because you need him to dash past people, and then Katarina can jump to the backline that much easier. But pretty simple comp, 2-cost reroll. You could always click like the little button over here to review the leveling patterns if you really want to. Bunnymuffins.lol for that. Next comp up we have is a new comp, Crystal Gambit Ashe. This one is a 5 Crystal Gambit comp, and this one plays really weirdly. So it uses Fury Break really, really well. So Kayle is a duelist, Ashe is a duelist, K'Sante's a Wraith, Kayle's a Wraith. So Kayle's kind of like a natural unit to use, but she also gets the power-up called Fury Break. So Fury Break, what it does is when your other fruited unit dies, you gain attack speed. If you die instead, your other fruited unit gains the attack speed instead. So what ends up happening is you sacrifice your Kayle up front with Fury Break. She dies, gives the Fury Break buff to Ashe, and then Ashe with 3 Kraken Slayers just goes absolutely crazy because she gets a ton of attack speed, and then obviously Kraken Slayer gives a lot of attack damage. You don't need 3 of them, but at least 2 of them is preferred. Third item doesn't matter that much. I think I make a mention of that over here. And it's kind of like an easy way to get a lot of free stats out there. So there are a couple of crucial points with this comp. So this comp must spike very hard on 4-1 and 4-2, ideally on 4-1, because you need to win a lot of rounds during that time to kind of use the 5 Crystal Gambit cash outs potentially, because that's going to be the main strength of your team. If you get one of those crazy juiced up rewards for like an extra item on Ashe, like even better. But essentially, if you do not spike at this point, you will fall behind and likely bot force, so it's a little risky. Another thing to note is that while Fury Break is very good, this power-up falls off in the later part of the game. It's really strong during stage 4, but eventually you want to swap it off and get a real tank power-up on either K'Sante or Swain. If you have 3-star Swain, use it on Swain. If you have 2-star Swain, use it on K'Sante. Just get any generic tank one, like Tankzilla, Body Changer, pretty decent. But anything that makes them tankier will do. So as you get your cash outs, you want to swap your build over, and ideally you have at least 2 Kraken Slayers on Ashe to steamroll stage 4. If you get to 3 Kraken Slayers on Ashe, then you might want to consider keeping Fury Break because they just synergize so well. But if you don't, then obviously do the power-up removal that we talked about and drop the power-up on either K'Sante or Swain. Another thing to note is that you do not want to be playing 7 Crystal. You could do it on stage 4, but anything beyond that, it's a little hard to play just because the units are so bad, like the Crystal Gambit units. So just stay 5, get like the smaller rewards, but stay a little strong. The comp really caps out around Lee Sin and Xayah as like your main bombs in the late game. You could also play Braum. Braum gives Bastion with Swain, so there are a lot of different outs there. And you will be getting a ton of items with the cash out bonuses, so kind of itemizing everyone isn't too big of a deal. But overall, pretty decently strong comp. You just need to do everything in your power to get Ashe 2 on 4-1 or 4-2. Doing a fast 8 is the way to do that. And for power-ups, Bludgeoner, Sky Piercer are pretty good on Ashe. And then obviously the Fury Break cheese, where you could just sacrifice your frontline unit, also helps your team out a ton. Next build up we have is going to be the Malzahar Heavyweight build. I love this build personally. I don't know why. Like, Malzahar is one of Mortdog's favorite units. Maybe that's why it's always kind of cool in every set that he's in, even though he's kind of got the same ability every time. But I kind of like the Malzahar bleed build or stall comp. But in this heavyweight version, he's built a little bit differently than he normally is because Noxious Trap is so good. So Noxious Trap gives him the anti-heal, gives him the magic pen, so he doesn't need to build it, saves you 2 items, which is really, really nice. A power-up, is that worth 2 items? I mean, probably, right? Obviously, you don't get the stats from it. You really just care about the effects, though. And that means you could just build pure AP on him, like Jeweled Gauntlet, mana item, 3rd item, doesn't really matter, and then play all the heavyweights and just stall almost forever. I wonder if this works with Protector, because there is a Wraith Protector in Cassante. I've never tried it, but I guess we could always check out the data on that to see if that's even a thing. I really just see Malzahar in heavyweights, but it's always good to check whether other ways to build things are viable. Remember how like people were playing Smolder or Kog'Maw before and they flexed around with the different tank lines? Definitely could be the same case with Malzahar, but again, I've really only seen him with heavyweights. But if we type in 6 there, heavyweights are by far the most played, but some people tried Protector and it worked pretty decently, right? I guess if you get a lot of Protectors for free, then it makes a lot of sense. So maybe it is something people can kind of try out. Maybe it's a little interesting. It probably depends on what items you get. If you get like only tank items, maybe you want to go Protectors, because not getting damage items on Darius would hurt quite a bit because he does do a bunch of stuff. Obviously, like, heavyweights is better because having 2 carries is better than 1 carry. If you go Protectors, like, you pretty much only have Malzahar. I guess you could go all-out Cassante with the Darius items. Maybe that would be fun to try. If someone wants to run the science experiment for all of us, let us know in the comments how that went for you. But I was just kind of randomly thinking of stuff as I was looking over this comp. But 3-cost reroll is going to be the name of the game here. 3-star Malzahar, 3-star Darius. Jayce you don't care about. And then Poppy main tank if you have random tank items to throw on people. But for augments, you really should be fishing for artifacts because Malzahar uses a lot of them pretty decently. Darius also uses a few of them pretty well. And after that, you should prioritize reroll augments. So like Prismatic Ticket, getting Champion Duplicators, Pandora's Bench, anything that gives rerolls, going to be really solid to get. And that's pretty much all there is to this team. Very easy comp to play. Next comp up we have is Bastion Xayah reroll. This comp was a little bit lower last week. I think we just moved this one up to the A tier. But it's just a simple 2-cost reroll. Oddly enough, like Xayah Rakan, the fan service build, kind of took a backseat to this build. This build's a little bit better, but you could build Rageblade or Kraken Slayer. If you haven't noticed yet, like Rageblade and Kraken Slayer are kind of like the ways to play this patch, because if you build Rageblade, you can play the TF builds if you get a lot of gold, and if you build Kraken, you could go into Ashe if you want. But in this build here, we have a 2-cost reroll with Shen and Xayah. Xayah with Rageblade, Kraken plus 3rd item, Shen with Even Shroud, and then random tank items. And then you just play the 6 Bastion as stall, and this works out pretty decently. The only hard part about this comp is that you need perfect items on Xayah, so if you ever get Pandora's items, it's really, really good, because you pretty much do need this exact item combo, because you need Rageblade for the attack speed, you need Kraken Slayer for the attack damage, and then the 3rd item, you just need any multiplier, so Giant Slayer is going to be pretty good for that. But it is a little tricky to get, and you need to spike with this comp early, because this comp does fall off like a rock. Pretty much in general, 2-cost rerolls fall off pretty hard, but this comp falls off like especially hard in my opinion. For power-ups, get Double Strike. You could even use Sky Piercer if you don't have the Even Shroud. So you could use this early game and then swap over to Double Strike later on. And then Shen, just get any tank power-up, and if you don't have Sunfire Cape, Inner Fire works as well. But just like most 2-cost reroll comps, you just want to maybe lose streak stage 2, and then on stage 3-2 or 3-1, get to level 6, roll down, hit 2-star Shen, 2-star Xayah, start win streaking from there, and then get an HP lead, get 3 stars sometime during stage 4, win a little bit more there, and then you'll probably be losing out in stage 5 to some of the fast 9 comps, but it's okay because they'll be killing each other too. In game, of course, and then you'll bleed out and hopefully get a top 4. That's pretty much how this comp works. It's a little less reliable to top 4 with than the Katarina comp. That's why the Katarina comp's a little bit higher. But it still is a very decent option, especially if you have a lot of attack speed items in the early game. So if you have Katarina items, she really likes the glove items and Edge and Knight, then obviously go for Katarina. If you have attack speed items and you need to reroll, then go for Xayah. Next build up we have is Veteran Mentor Janna. This one is the 2-cost reroll you go for if you have AP. So Janna build, it's really just blue buff, Jeweled Gauntlet plus anything. Kabuko, very solid still, even though he got nerfed. This comp was in the B tier last week because Mech was just so good, but now that Mech's out, it makes a lot of other comps better. So that's why this comp is being bumped up to the A tier. I personally really like this comp a lot because of Kabuko. Kabuko with the shielding items is absolutely hilarious. And One thing to remember whenever you play this comp is that you always want to put Kabuko either on this hex or on the Udyr hex. That way he can sometimes snipe the backline carries with his knockup, which is pretty nice. He gets that effect once you get 4 Mentor activated. Another thing you want to keep in mind with this comp is that you want to keep Udyr alive as much as possible. Don't put him on the edge like where K'Sante or the Mech is, because you do not want him to get targeted that early, because he gives the anti-heal debuff to your team, which is a really nice effect to have, obviously. If you get a bunch of extra Protector's Vows, drop him on Jarvan, he'll just cast a little earlier, which is pretty nice, and then throw random items on your Ryze. Ryze is still pretty good, like people underestimate him, but he really pops off with a 4 Mentor buff. So if you ever get too many items for your team, he is a great holder for that, because he still will carry at 2-star. Like sometimes I see him even competing with the Janna even though he's 2-star. And you can contrast that to his other builds where he only has 1 Mentor. He does not carry as hard, but if you have 4 active, then he gets his extra effect and he becomes really, really, really good. I mean, all the Mentors become good if you have 4 Mentor activated, right? Like, I guess it doesn't take a genius to figure that out, but that's kind of why I like itemizing him a lot as a secondary in the Mentor build. But yeah, it's pretty simple stuff, right? Those are the comps I would be focused on playing in this patch right now. How many was that? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 comps to go over right now. Obviously, you can play the other stuff. It's not as good, but if you get a super spot for it, like if you get Star Guardian emblems, like obviously Star Guardian is going to be good. If you get very specific artifact items for Kog'Maw and you get an early Kog'Maw, then obviously go Kog'Maw. Same for like all the other comps out there. But these are the 7 I would kind of focus on right now if you kind of want to do like a last ditch effort climb. So the set is ending, I believe, 2 weeks from now or 2.5 weeks from now. So if you want to get that last push for ranks, this would be a good time to do it. If you need to speed that up even more, there are like coaching services available on the top right. Pretty much it's just a list of people that I recommend to get coaching from. But of course, the easiest way to get better is to go to bunnymuffins.lol and actually read like the descriptions on the how to play section, because I know a lot of people like they send in their coaching VODs or whatever and they're not even following the comps that are in the images. So if you can't do the bare minimum, you're probably not ready yet, but I know it's a lot to take in because obviously like there are a lot of different comps to go over. Like even knowing 7 comps, like you have to know all 8 of the units in all 7 comps. You have to know all 9 of the items that all of them play, and then you have to know general augments that they want. It's a lot to kind of remember. Like I'm not saying it's easy to do, but one trick that I know that has helped people a lot in the past is either just alt-tabbing into the site as you're playing once you decide what comp you want to go for, or put it on your second monitor. Either option works. So maybe it helps you, maybe it doesn't, but that's kind of how I would kind of do it. But that's going to be it from me today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this video, and I'll see you all in the next one.